My name is Michael McCarthy. I'm the game director of Mirandus. I've been making games since the mid-90s, so 25 years or so. My love and my passion, I think, was definitely in the early days of my development, making a lot of the old school RPGs at Interplay, Black Isle, and Troika.
You got an awesome background in gaming, like you said, about 25 years or so, and now making the move over here to blockchain, Web3 gaming. Mirandus being the title, it seems like you're all in on and heading that up. How would you describe Mirandus in your words, like elevator pitch style, just to present it to the audience here?
I'd say it's a classic fantasy MMO set more in the vein of an EverQuest or a game where there is danger and penalties if you die. It's a little less about a grind and a little bit more about a large secret world that we're not going to give you a map to, and it's up to the players to explore it and survive.
Very cool. I was doing a deep dive video and I really sort of nerded out and went down the rabbit hole on Mirandus, and I think one of the things that really excited me the most about Mirandus was the vision of the metaverse that you have with this kind of open economy concept. So I'd love to hear in your words what that vision of the metaverse is and how this open economy will all work.
There's different styles of games that you can create. The most exciting thing, I think, as a developer is to make a game that's a little bit more like setting the stage, generating a big world and then letting players come into it and do what they want. In the case of Mirandus, this is going to be a place where players come into it, they place towns, they place buildings. Everything that you equip, that you wear, will be something that another player has crafted. And I feel like, talking with our audience, and we were on Discord quite a bit, they don't just want a place where you're stabbing a goblin to death. They also want a place that you can kind of hang out. While we definitely have a classic fantasy MMO component, I think many people are excited by the idea of just being transported to a fantasy realm where they really get to kind of live, craft, play, and adventure with others.
I guess, how does that work with tokens or, the ability to get rewarded, with the Web3 element?
Well, there's an economy. So, a deed, we have many deed owners. A deed is kind of like a stamp that you put out into the wilds. And building owners could come along, and on that stamp, there's many locations that they could put a building. And they kind of pay a lease, if you will, to that deed owner because they think it's a good location and they want to put their business there. And if a lot of players are coming through and they're using their business, then the building owners are getting rewarded for what they craft or games that they're hosting at their tavern. Players themselves, they're out in the world. One of the things that you'll be finding out in the world when you're killing monsters or in chests or in secret locations or something we're pretty excited about is you'll be finding Materium, and Materium is traded right now as an ERC20, I think, but it is mana, so all magical actions in the world require it, and it is kind of woven through all of the mechanics of the game. So for instance, if you die, you would come back with an experience penalty normally, but you can apply Materium to your resurrection and come back without penalty. We've also been making a pretty big push, again, talking to our community. They want everything to be something they potentially could own and be an NFT. So we are going pretty deep on making classes NFTs that you could find out in the world. Spells, actions, like when you're playing an RPG and you get the triple spinning sword attack. Well, wouldn't it be cool if players could own that too?
Awesome. With the tokens and the NFTs, do you guys put a lot of focus in the financial element of them and making sure that they hold their value? So for example, you're mentioning maybe you can own the spells as an NFT. What happens when thousands of players all own that spell? Is there still value in the NFT, or is the value factor of the NFT something that you guys are putting the focus on?
Well, we can control rarity through tuning and how often something drops. What we talk about internally, as a game development team is value to the player, meaning this is cool, this is rare. Value to us is really value inside of the game and inside of the ecosystem, kind of the power and prestige that it brings.
And I think that goes back to what you mentioned about empowering people to act as they would like to act in a game environment. My mind goes to the tech side of this, and with your background in gaming and understanding what it takes to have these massive gameplays all at once. I know you have one world. It's not like a separate thing where everyone's scattered, but they're all in one place. I'd love for you to describe that and maybe even some of the tech that goes behind that to pull it off.
With the people who've been following us and been supporting us, they want one world. They don't want there to be Mirandus existing in 10, 20, 30 locations. They like the idea that Mirandus is one world and a world where people of all different backgrounds or ethnicities or cultures can come together and kind of be. So we really love that idea and that vision. It is a challenge because you are looking at latency, especially between locations far away on the globe. While that latency might exist, you are seeing it on the client side of the application in a way that looks like you're all experiencing the same thing at the exact same time, even though there might be a slight delay in reality. I like the idea of being in one world. I've always hated the idea that I'm in this MMO and my friends are in it too, maybe even in the same zone, but I don't see them because they're off in some other server.
Yeah, I personally love the idea of it all being one world. I'm curious, when I was doing my research, I came across a couple of videos of you playing Valheim with somebody else. And here at Hard Fork, that's actually one of our little downtime hobbies is when we find a little bit of downtime, we all jump into a sort of shared world in Valheim that we created. But I'm curious, what are some of the games that inspired you? What were some of the games that you've been playing yourself that led you to want to make Mirandus?
I think where all of this comes from is really pencil and paper D&D adventures. It felt like a real adventure. You never knew what was around the next corner. You were with your friends. We were trying to create that breadth of choices that paper and pencil gave you. I think really the soul and the spirit of it is those original pencil and paper experiences where you can kind of say and do whatever you want.
I mean, Valheim, you get pretty penalized when you die. Explain, because you said it's a big deal in Mirandus, when you die and, heroes. How does that look in Mirandus?
The simplest thing we can do is when you die, you're going to lose experience points. I mean, the fiction of it is that you're coming back with essentially memory loss. So your body is reconstituting, but you've lost a little bit of something that you were able to do previously. So, we are kind of a skill-based system in mastery. The things that you do more, you will get better at. And if you go out there and you just start dying left and right, you'll see that pushback start to push those experience bars back. If I'm going to die and something is going to push me back in my abilities, I just completely think of that world differently. I don't run, I walk. I listen to the sounds. Oh my God, did I hear something? I'm always thrilled when I see other players or other people around me, like, oh my God, thank God, I'm not alone here. It really just kind of changes your experience.
Yeah, one thing that I learned when I was digging into is that when somebody does die, they can respawn in a graveyard essentially, but somebody can actually own that graveyard and have financial incentive for owning that graveyard. I'm curious, where is that division between player controlled, building up the story versus, the devs and you guys on the team creating the story? Where is that dividing line between players building it and you guys telling your story?
I don't want us to tell a story. Like I want the story to be what the players did in this world, how they approached it and how they worked together to survive. I never look at it like a story we're looking to tell. I look at it like we're creating a land and a world, and what the players do with it is going to be just as exciting for us to watch as we're hoping it is for people to play.
Absolutely. And follow-up question to that one too then is, how deep do you see that sort of economic model going? Like, players can own the land and they can own the graveyards on the land, and then you can own shops and the shops can sell stuff. Like, how deep does that rabbit hole go of, potential, metaverse business models within Mirandus?
Our North Star when we're talking about the development is what would happen in real life. One thing you can get into when you're making a game or designing a game is you start making up stuff. Like, oh, we're going to make that up. Oh, it's just a game. Let's make that up. Let's make that up. Let's make that up. But the truth is, if you take the lens of this is a dangerous fantasy world that people have just, come into, what would they need to do to survive? How would they be able to survive? And what businesses would be required from a medieval 1400s, 1500s classic kind of fantasy level of technology?
That's incredible. And I keep thinking of, do you think a game like this could really exist with the vision that you have without it being on blockchain?
I don't think so, man. I think there's a lot of traditional gamers, because the space is so new, There's a lot of traditional gamers that haven't had the experience of owning their own content, and I find myself saying own your own content a lot. It is in this day and age a bit of an esoteric concept to people that haven't had the experience of being in a game, getting something, closing the game down, and you getting to control the fate of those items however you see fit. Literally like you bought the toy at the store. When you get home, if you want to give it to your friend, you can.
Do you think it's education that folks like gamer, or is it like a great game where they just are immersed and they kind of learn, and maybe the style of game, is it an MMO like this? Do you think that folks are kind of looking after, or something more story driven?
I don't know. I think if the question you're asking is how are more people going to come to this space, from a traditional Web 2 space, I think you're going to see great games coming out. And I think people are just going to be coming to play the game. Like, oh, cool. I heard that was a cool game. And then they're going to play it. They're going to love it. And then they're going to kind of stumble onto blockchain. I think it's just going to be everywhere. Everyone is going to be using it. They're probably not even going to know. And it's just going to happen. It's already happening. If you look at wallet adoption, look at blockchain adoption, it works. Again, it's a great piece of code and everyone's just going to be using it. So I think it'll be everywhere. I think in 10 years, for sure, it would legitimately be woven into almost every piece of software you're using. That wouldn't shock me.
I'm curious. So we've spent a lot of time talking about Mirandus, but you're also the co-founder of Gala as a whole. And I was wondering if you'd be open to kind of talking about the bigger vision of what Gala has in the works and what the sort of big picture of Gala is.
I think for the original spirit of Gala, and I think this is woven into everything that we do, is this concept of decentralization. What happens when you turn it over to the people? That was really the question I think that we were asking ourselves very early on. Why can't you do this? Why shouldn't somebody be able to own their own stuff? And what happens if we do empower people to own their own content? What does that picture look like?
When it comes to the NFTs, the exemplar, like you said, with Mirandus, those are required to play the game currently, correct?
Yeah, you have to have an avatar, if you will, to play. You need a concept of ownership. If you're going to own something, you need a wallet. You need to have a place where things can be stored. So, we made 50,000 exemplars, and out of those 50,000, only 1,000 of them are elves. That's it. That feeling in Lord of the Rings, where, oh my God, there's some elves walking in the woods. Holy crap. You can't have that if there's just a million elves everywhere. So we made 50,000 out of each of those races. They have special powers, and hopefully those powers and abilities, we'll be tuning the game to make them really, really important in different scenarios or different zones.
I love that stuff, man. I mean, yeah, and having the scarcity of the amount of NFTs out there to start seems like a great way to build community and building probably the best kind of world too, because you have people from the beginning with you. So excited for that. Do you have any dates or timeline for a wider, maybe a beta kind of gameplay launch?
So we're going to have another playtest in January. And I think what people are going to see in the next playtest is, multiple playable zones, and, you will be surrounded by hundreds of people. And that's really cool. It feels absolutely legit. You just see people scouring the environment, and makes you believe you're in that world.
But Michael, this has been absolutely amazing. I want to be respectful of your time. So if somebody wants to play Mirandus when the next playtest happens, they need to get an exemplar. Is there anything that we didn't cover around Mirandus or Gala that maybe you want to get out before we wrap this up?
So, Gala isn't just games. We also have, film, and we also have music that we've kicked off. And they're really exciting too. And again, they're exciting because there's this industry out there that is sucking people dry and not adding a lot of value. If you took all of the fans of musicians and artists that I like and had them directly contributing to that artist, what would you see? What would they be able to create without the oversight and the tax that a major organization is sapping from them? So that's probably it, man. Viva la revolution.
Heck yeah, man. Hey, Michael, I appreciate your time and the fact that you've been so open with us. Where should folks go follow? Maybe it's you, Gala, Mirandus to get the latest.
Go to gala.games. That's a great place to start. You can go to mirandus.game to learn a little bit more about Mirandus, but I think gala.games is a great place to start.